Ethan had lived on Station Vero for 6 months. But he still felt like a stranger there. The station was old, cold, and always noisy. Metal floors shook under heavy boots. Cargo machines moved day and night. Air vents made low sounds in the walls. Traders, miners, soldiers, and aliens from many worlds passed through every week. But even in such a crowded place, people kept distance from one another. Nobody wanted trouble. Nobody asked questions. Ethan worked in Dock Ring 3, where freight ships came in from the outer systems. His job was simple. He checked cargo lists, moved small containers, and helped repair loading tools when they broke. The pay was not great, but it was enough. He liked that no one cared who he was, where he came from, or what he had lost before coming there. Still, there were things even Ethan could not ignore. One of them was the alien woman who lived near the old market hall. Her name was Lyra. Everyone on the station knew her face, but almost no one knew her voice. She was seen walking alone through the lower halls, always in dark clothes, always quiet. She never stayed in the market long. She bought what she needed and returned to her room. She did not smile. She did not talk. She did not look at anyone. For more than a second, people whispered when she passed. Some said she was the widow of a war officer from a distant alien empire. Some said her husband died in a border battle 2 years ago. Others said she had changed after his death. They said she no longer trusted anyone. They said strange things happened around her room at nightlights, flickering, soft sounds in the walls, power loss in nearby halls. There were darker rumors too. A mechanic in Dock Ring 2 once said a drunk trader had tried to follow her home. The next morning, the man asked for transfer papers and left the station without telling anyone why not after that. People gave her space. Ethan had seen Lyra many times from a distance. He noticed how others moved away from her path. He noticed how she kept her head down as if she wanted to disappear. But he also noticed something else. She never looked angry. She looked tired, deeply tired, like someone carrying weight that never left her shoulders. That was why he remembered her. That was why. On the night everything changed, he stopped walking. The station had a power drop in the lower levels that evening. It was not unusual. Old wires and weak systems caused problems every week. Half the hall lights near the market had gone dark, leaving only red emergency strips along the floor and a weak glow from a broken sign. Above a closed food stall, Ethan had just finished a late shift. His hands smelled like machine oil. His back hurt. He wanted sleep. He was heading toward the worker quarters when he saw someone sitting alone outside a door at the far end of the hall. It was Lyra. She sat very still on the narrow bench fixed to the wall near her room. Her hands rested in her lap. Her dark hair fell over one side of her face. In the dim red light, she looked almost unreal-like, a quiet shadow shaped into a person. For a moment, Ethan thought she might be injured. Then she lifted her head just slightly, and he saw her face. There was sadness. There, yes, a deep sadness. But there was also something calm in her expression, something gentle and strong at the same time. The red light caught the lines of her face and the silver pattern near her temple, a mark of her species. She looked lonely, but she also looked beautiful, not in a loud way, not in the polished way of station performers or rich travelers. She looked beautiful in a way that made Ethan stop breathing for a second. He did not plan to speak. In fact, he knew he should keep walking. Everyone else did. That was the station rule when it came to Lyra. Leave her alone. But that night, something felt different. Maybe it was the darkness. Maybe it was the silence. Maybe it was the way she sat there, like a person forgotten by the whole galaxy. Ethan slowed, then stopped a few steps away. Lyra looked up. Her eyes met his. They were not cold eyes. They were careful eyes, hurt eyes. The kind of eyes that expected pain before kindness. Ethan swallowed. He almost turned away. Instead, in a quiet voice, he said, "You are very beautiful." The words hung in the dark hall. For 1 second, nothing moved. Even the station seemed silent. Lyra stared at him as if she had not understood, as if no one had spoken to her like that in a very long time. Her face did not change, but something in her eyes did. Surprise first, then confusion. Then something deeper Ethan could not name. He suddenly felt foolish. Maybe he had crossed a line. Maybe she would tell him to leave. Maybe she would close the door in his face before he could explain. But Lyra did not speak. Slowly, she stood up from the bench. Ethan stayed where he was, unsure of what to do. Lyra stepped to her door. For a moment, her hand rested on the control panel. Then the lock clicked, and the door slid open with a soft sound. A dim blue light came from inside the room. She turned and looked at him. Again, still silent. Then she gave the smallest motion with her hand, an invitation. Ethan's heart began to beat faster. He looked down the empty hall. No one was there. Only the red floor lights and the hum of the damaged station systems. When he looked back, Lyra was waiting. Ethan stepped forward and crossed the doorway. The room inside was quiet and dark, filled with shadows and cold blue light. Then, behind him, the door slid shut, and in that soft closing sound, Ethan realized one thing very clearly. He was now alone with the widowed alien woman. Everyone feared, and he had no idea why she had let him in. The door closed with a soft metal sound. Ethan stood still for a moment. He did not move, did not speak, and did not even breathe normally. The room around him felt quiet in a way the station never did. Outside, Station Vero was always full of machine noise, heavy steps, distant voices, and moving cargo. But inside Lyra's room, everything felt sealed away, as if the world had been pushed back behind thick walls. A cool blue light came from a lamp fixed high in one corner. It spread across the room in soft shadows. Ethan slowly looked around. The apartment was small, but neat. To neat, there was a narrow table near the wall, 2 simple chairs, a shelf with metal containers, and a sleeping space behind a thin divider curtain. On the far side of the room, a low cabinet held several strange objects Ethan did not recognize: smooth stones, a broken silver band, a glass tube filled with dark crystals, and a small folded flag marked with an alien military symbol. Above the cabinet hung a framed image. Ethan's eyes stopped there. It showed Lyra standing beside a tall alien male in formal uniform. He had sharp features, proud posture, and one hand resting lightly over hers. Lyra looked different in that image. Not younger, exactly, but lighter. Her face held warmth, peace, a small smile. Her husband. Ethan thought that dead man everyone whispered about. Ethan quickly looked away, feeling as if he had stepped into a place built from memory and pain. Lyra moved past him without a sound and stood by the table. For a second, she kept her back to him. Then she touched a small control surface, and another low light came on near the floor. The room grew a little brighter, though it still felt dim. She finally turned toward him. Her face was calm again, but not cold. She pointed to the chair across from her. "Sit," she said. It was the first word Ethan had ever heard from her. Her voice surprised him. It was low, soft, and careful, as if each word had to pass through old sorrow before reaching the air. Ethan sat down slowly. The chair made a slight scrape on the floor, and the sound felt too loud in the stillness. Lyra remained standing for a moment, then she sat across from him, placing both hands in her lap. Her eyes stayed on him, not hostile, not welcoming, Just searching. Ethan tried to think of something to say, but nothing felt right. Why had she invited him in? Why had she closed the door? Why was she looking at him like that? A long silence stretched between them. Then Lyra spoke. "Why did you say it?" Ethan blinked. "What?" Her eyes narrowed just a little. "You know what? It did." He looked down. At the table, then back at her. "I only said what I saw." Lyra did not answer. Ethan swallowed. "I know that may sound strange. I did not mean to offend you. You think I was offended?" she asked. Her voice was not angry. "That made it harder. I don't know," Ethan admitted. "I don't know what you thought." Lyra leaned back, slightly in her chair. "Then why say such words to someone you do not know?" That question stayed in the room like smoke. Ethan searched for an answer that would not sound foolish. "Because everyone else looks at you like they already decided who you are." For the first time, Lyra's expression changed, only a little. "But enough," Ethan continued, his voice quiet. "Some look afraid. Some look sorry for you. Some try not to look at all. But when I saw you out there, you did not look dangerous. You looked alone." Lyra's fingers tightened slightly over each other. Ethan noticed, but went on. "And yes," he said, "you looked beautiful." The room fell. Silent again. Lyra lowered her eyes for a moment. Ethan could not tell what she was thinking. Her face became unreadable, distant, as if his words had opened a door in her mind that she had kept locked for a long time. When she finally spoke, her voice was softer than before. "My husband said those same words to me." Ethan froze. Lyra looked toward the framed image on the wall, on the day he died. A heavy feeling dropped into Ethan's chest. He had expected many things when he stepped into her room: anger, warning, silence, maybe danger. But not this. Not grief, spoken so plainly. "I'm sorry," he said at once. Lyra did not look at him. "Most people say that because they think they should. I mean it." Ethan did not touch the broken silver band. It lay between them on the table, cold under the blue light, like a piece of a life that had been torn apart and never repaired. Lyra stood across from him, still and unreadable, but the air in the room had changed. The silence was no longer just quiet. It was full of warning, for the first time since entering. Ethan thought about the closed door behind him, not because he wanted to leave, because now he understood why no one else wanted to come in. He looked at Lyra carefully. What was he looking for? Lyra did not answer at once. She picked up the silver band again, turned it once in her fingers, then placed it back on the cabinet near the framed image of her husband. When she spoke, her voice was calm, but it carried the weight of old fear. "My husband was not just a soldier," she said. "That is what most people on this station believe. It is easier that way." Ethan stayed quiet. "He served in a science unit during the war," Lyra continued. "A hidden one. They traveled near the border systems where abandoned ruins and dead worlds were found. Their task was not only to fight, was to search." "Search for what?" Ethan asked. Lyra turned and looked at him. "Things left behind." That answer should have sounded simple, but it did not. Not in the way she said it. Ethan frowned. "Old weapons. Sometimes machines." "Yes," he hesitated. "Something important enough to kill for." Lyra's expression did not change, but her eyes told him enough. "Yes." A soft hum came from somewhere in the room. Ethan could not tell if it was from the station walls or from something inside the apartment itself. Lyra walked toward the far side of the room near the divider curtain. She knelt beside a narrow metal storage unit fixed low into the wall. Ethan watched as she touched 3 hidden points along its edge. A faint light moved under her fingers, and the panel unlocked with a low click. The compartment behind it was deeper than it should have been. She reached inside and pulled out a flat black case, no larger than a toolbox. It looked old, but strong, with no visible markings except a thin silver line running around the center. Ethan stood up without meaning to. Lyra glanced at him once. "Stay where you are." He obeyed. She carried the case to the table and set it down very gently, as if it held something alive or fragile. For a few seconds, her hand rested on top of it. Then she looked at Ethan. "When my husband left for his final mission," she said, "he returned only once before he died. He was injured, tired, more afraid than I had ever seen him." Ethan listened closely. He said if anyone came asking questions, I was to tell them nothing. If they searched, I was to give them nothing. And if I had any hope left in me, I was to protect this case until the right moment came. "The right moment?" Ethan asked. Lyra's eyes held his. He did not explain. She pressed her thumb. Against the silver line, the case opened. Inside, resting in dark-fitted material, was an object unlike anything Ethan had ever seen. It was not large. It was about the size of both his hands placed together. Smooth, curved, and made of some material that looked like glass and metal at the same time. Soft blue light moved under its surface in slow waves, like light trapped inside deep water. Thin lines ran across it in patterns that shifted when he looked too long, as if the object did not want to keep one shape in the eye. Ethan forgot to breathe for a second. "What is that?" he whispered. Lyra shook her head slightly. "To not know its true name." The object gave off a low pulse. Ethan felt it more than heard it. "My husband called it a memory core," Lyra said, "but not like your human data storage. He said it was older than the war, older than our governments. He believed it was made by a lost civilization no one fully understands." Ethan stared at the thing. The blue light moved again, slower this time. "And people came here for that?" he asked. "Yes. Why not give it to them?" Lyra's face hardened. "Because those who wanted it were not honest men." That Ethan believed at once. He stepped closer to the table before he could stop himself. "Does it work?" Lyra's hand moved near the case, not threatening, but ready. "No one has made it work." Ethan looked up. "No one. Military minds, science officers, code readers, war ministers." She gave a bitter breath. "All of them wanted to open it. None of them could." He looked back at the object. "Then how do they know it matters?" "Because people kill for what they do not understand." That answer settled deep in him. The blue light under the object's surface flickered once. Then again, Ethan narrowed. His eyes did just a soft tone rose from inside the case. Lyra went still. Ethan leaned over the table, caught between fear and wonder. The object's inner glow was changing now, becoming brighter, sharper. Thin lines of light moved toward one side of the curved surface, then spread out again like veins waking under skin. Lyra's voice dropped. "Do not touch it." I wasn't going to. But the object pulsed again, stronger this time. The light stretched across the table edge and reflected over Ethan's hands. Lyra stared at the device, then at him. "It has not done that before," she said. Ethan slowly lifted his hands away from the table. "Maybe the room system changed. Maybe it reacts to power shifts." "No." Her voice was almost a whisper now. "I have seen every kind of station failure. It never reacted." The object gave another low tone. Then the top layer of its smooth shell shifted slightly, as if something inside had just become aware. Ethan felt a strange pressure in the room, not painful, but heavy, like standing near a storm before it broke. Lyra took one slow step back. Her eyes never left the glowing thing. Then she said the words that made Ethan's blood run cold. "It is responding to you." The room seemed to shrink around them. Ethan stared at her. That's impossible. Yes, Lyra said softly. It should be. The object pulsed one more time, bright, clear, waiting. And in that moment, both of them understood that whatever had been sleeping inside the black case was no longer asleep. The blue light filled the room. It was no longer soft or distant. Now it moved in clear waves across the surface of the strange object, bright enough to paint the walls, the table, and Lyra's face in cold color. Ethan stood frozen beside the chair, staring at the open case as if the thing inside might suddenly speak. Lyra looked even more shocked than he was for a long moment. Neither of them moved. Then the object gave a low sound, almost like a breath. Ethan stepped back at once. I did not touch it. No, Lyra said. Her voice was steady, but just barely. The object pulsed again. This time, a thin line of light rose from its center and spread outward in a circle. Symbols appeared across its curved surface, small, sharp, and unknown. They shifted too quickly for Ethan to follow. Some looked like written language. Others looked like star maps or maybe machine code. Lyra stared at the moving signs. This has never happened before. Ethan swallowed. Maybe it is broken. No, she said quietly. Broken things do not wake up. That answer did not help. He looked around the room as if expecting hidden speakers or some station device to explain what was happening. But there was only the blue light, the quiet hum in the walls, and the strange object now fully alive inside the black case. Then one of the symbols expanded. It became a circle of light in the air above the table. Ethan took another step back. The circle grew into a floating image, thin at first, weak and shaking, then clearer by the second. It looked like a field of stars turning in darkness. Small lines connected them, then changed into a shape like a map. Ethan did not recognize any of the systems shown there. Lyra slowly moved to his side, her eyes wide and fixed on the image. I saw this once, she whispered. You did? In my husband's notes, not the full image, just one part. Ethan glanced at her. What is it? I do not know. The floating map rotated once. Then several stars turned red. A second later, the image vanished. The object dimmed, then pulsed again, as if trying to decide what to show next. Ethan looked down at it. Why would it react to me? Lyra was silent for a moment. That is the question. He gave a short, uneasy laugh. I'm just a dock worker. Yes, she said. Which makes this worse. He turned to her. Worse. Lyra stepped away from the table and began to pace slowly, thinking fast. My husband told me many people tried to unlock it. Not simple people. Trained people. Powerful people. They failed. Some believed the object needed a military command code. Others believed it could read alien bloodlines, rank, or advanced thought patterns. Ethan folded his arms, trying to steady himself. Okay, now it lights up because I walked too close. That should not happen, but it did. Yes. Lyra stopped pacing and looked directly at him. You said you came from the interhuman colonies? Ethan nodded slowly. Yes. Any military family. No. Science work. Deep. Survey work. Government systems? No. She studied him with growing frustration, not at him, but at the answer itself. Then there is no reason. Ethan gave a weak smile. That makes two of us. The object sounded again. This time, the tone was sharper. Lyra turned at once. The surface of the device had changed again. The blue light was now mixed with pale white lines that moved toward one end, then formed a small shape above the case. AHANDPRINT. Human-sized. Ethan stared at it. Lyra's breath caught. No. What? She pointed. It wants contact. He looked at her in disbelief. You said not to touch it. I know what I said. Then why is it asking me? Lyra did not answer. The hand-shaped light remained in the air. Still and waiting, Ethan felt the room grow colder. If I touch, that is not a strong reason to do it. It is a stronger reason than we had 5 minutes ago. He almost argued, but then stopped. She was right. For the first time since her husband died, the device had responded to someone. Not a soldier. Not a scientist. Him that thought should have felt important. Instead, it felt dangerous. He stepped closer to the table again. Slowly, this time, the handprint of light brightened. Lyra moved beside him. If anything changes too fast, step away. That is your advice? Is the best I have. Ethan looked at the floating shape. I really hate this. Good, Lyra said. That means you are still thinking clearly. He gave her a quick look. In any other moment, that might have made him smile. Then he lifted his hand. The moment his palm moved near the light, the entire object flashed. A wave of energy rolled through the room. The blue lamp overhead went dark. The wall lights failed. For 1 second, the only thing shining was the device itself. Then the room lit up brighter than before. Ethan gasped and pulled his hand back, but it was too late. The object had already changed. The floating image above the table expanded into a wider projection, this time not stars, but lines of text and moving shapes layered over each other. A language he could not read. Diagrams, symbol chains, fragments of images. They came too fast to understand. Lyra stepped backward, stunned. It opened. Not fully, Ethan said, shielding his eyes. I think it's searching. Then, a sound cut through the room, a sharp warning tone from somewhere outside. Lyra turned her head toward the door at once. Another tone followed. Then another tone followed. Ethan's stomach dropped. Did we trigger that? Lyra's face had gone pale beneath the blue light. No. She rushed to the wall panel near the door and touched it. A hidden display came alive. 3 red signals flashed across it. Unauthorized scan detected. Secta. 9 residential block. Containment team dispatched. Ethan stepped closer. Containment team. Lyra looked at him, and now there was no doubt in her expression. No mystery. Only urgency. They found it. Who? The same kind of men who came before, she said. Only this time, they know exactly where to look. From outside, faint but clear, came the sound of heavy boots in the hall. Not one person, several. The object on the table pulsed again. Bright and awake, and the apartment door locked itself with a hard metallic click. The first on the door was so hard that the wall shook. Ethan turned at once. A second blow followed, louder than the first. Somewhere in the corridor outside, a voice called out through metal and static. Station security. Open the door now. Lyra did not move toward the entrance. She stood by the wall panel, watching the display with cold focus. Her face had changed completely. The quiet widow from the market hall was gone. In her place stood someone sharper, someone who had seen danger before and knew what it looked like when it arrived. Ethan looked from the door to her. Are they really station security? No. The answer came fast. Another strike hit the door. Resident of Unit 9 to 14. The voice called again. You are in possession of restricted technology. Open immediately. Ethan glanced at the glowing object still lying in its black case on the table. The blue-white light flickered across the room like restless water. Can they break in? Yes. How long? Lyra looked at the door once. Then back at the display. Less than a minute. That was enough to make Ethan's mouth go dry. Outside, something mechanical locked onto the frame. He heard a high cutting sound begin, thin and sharp. Lyra moved quickly. She crossed the room, snapped the case shut, and lifted it with both hands. Then she went to the low storage wall near the divider and pressed 3 hidden points again. A narrow panel slid open beside it. Not a shelf, a passage. Ethan stared. "You have an escape tunnel. It is not mine," she said. "It is old station maintenance. I only made use of it." The cutting sound at the door grew louder. Lyra turned. To him, "You should leave now." Ethan blinked. "What?" She held the black case close to her side. "This is not your fight. If they find you with me, they will not ask questions later." He could not believe what he was hearing. "You think I can just walk out? The secondary vent hatch connects. To the lower pipe lane, you can get away before they enter. And you?" Lyra's eyes hardened. "I have escaped worse men than these." Another loud strike shook the room. Dust fell from the upper vent. Ethan looked at the hidden passage, then at the woman standing in blue light with a dangerous secret in her arms. He should go. Every clear, logical part of his mind told him that he was a dock worker, a nobody. He had no weapon, no armor, no reason to stand in the middle of someone else's hidden war. But then he saw the framed image again, still hanging on the wall behind her. Lyra beside the man she had lost, a past life broken into silence. Years of fear, years of being alone. And now these men had come for her again. "No," Ethan said. Lyra frowned. "No, I'm not leaving." For the first time since he entered the room. She looked openly surprised. "You do not understand what they want," she said. "I understand enough." A deep crack tore through the doorframe. Ethan took a step toward her. "If I leave now, they still get you. And if that thing really reacts to me, then I'm part of this, whether I like it or not." Lyra stared at him for one long second. The next impact bent the upper hinge. Then she gave one short nod. "Fine. Stay close. Speak less. Move fast." That was all. She stepped into the hidden passage, and Ethan followed. The panel shut behind them just as the apartment door burst open. For a second, all Ethan heard was the sound of men entering the room they had just left. Then the narrow dark around him took over. The passage was barely wide enough for one person at a time. Rusted pipes ran along both walls. The air smelled dry, hot, and old. Small emergency lights glowed every few meters, weak and yellow. Lyra moved ahead with quick steps. The black case held tight against her body. Ethan followed as quietly as he could. Behind them, muffled voices echoed through the panel wall. She was here. Scan for heat trail. Find the device. Lyra. Turn down a side shaft without slowing. Ethan nearly missed it. The floor sloped downward, and he had to grab the wall to keep from slipping. "How do you know this route?" he whispered. "My husband showed me," she said. Her answer came between breaths, but steady. "He planned this. He planned for betrayal." That sentence stayed with Ethan as they moved deeper into the station's hidden spaces. The passage opened into an older maintenance tunnel lined with thick support beams and dead cables. The sound of the station changed here. No market voices, no cargo machines, only distant engine hum and the occasional metal knock from somewhere far below. Lyra finally slowed near a junction where 3 tunnels crossed. She placed the black case on an old service crate and pressed her hand to the wall. Listening, Ethan watched her. "Do they know about this route? Not all of it?" "Not all." She looked at him. "Enough to be dangerous." A harsh sound suddenly echoed through the tunnel behind them. Metal boots, closed. Cos plos jumped. "They're in." "Lyra." Grab the case again, then we move. She turned toward the left tunnel, but the object inside the case gave a pulse. A strong one. Blue light flashed through the seams. Lyra stopped. Ethan stared at the case. It's doing it again. The pulse came once more, brighter this time, then faded toward the tunnel on the right. Lyra looked between both paths. That route should be sealed. The object pulsed toward it again. Ethan took a step closer. Maybe it's guiding us, or leading us into a trap. Bootsteps grew louder from behind. There was no more time. Lyra made her choice. She turned. Right. The tunnel narrowed, then dropped into a lower shaft filled with old cables and dust. Ethan had to duck under hanging lines as they moved. Somewhere behind them, men shouted. One beam of white searchlight cut briefly across the far wall. They were being followed. Then, after another sharp turn, the tunnel opened into a circular service chamber, and someone was already there. A tall figure stood in the dim center of the chamber, half lit by a blinking overhead strip. Alien male. Older than Lyra. With a long dark coat and one damaged eye covered by a metal plate. He did not raise a weapon. He only looked at Lyra and said, in a low voice full of old memory, you took far too long to trust someone, Lyra. Lyra stopped so suddenly that Ethan nearly ran into her. Her face went still. Cale. She said. Ethan felt at once that this name mattered, and whatever waited in Lyra did not lower the black case. She held it tighter against her side and stared at the man in the chamber, as if she were looking at a ghost that had stepped out of an old wound. The blinking overhead light flashed across his face, showing a hard jaw, pale skin marked by old scars, and the metal plate over one eye. He looked worn by war, but not weak. He stood with the stillness of someone who had spent years surviving dangerous places. Ethan stayed half a step behind Lyra, trying to understand the shape of the moment. The man called Cale looked first at Lyra, then at Ethan, then at the case. His one visible eye narrowed. So, he said quietly, it is true. The device finally woke. Lyra's voice turned cold. You should be dead. Cale gave a faint smile that held no warmth. Many people have said that. Bootsteps echoed faintly from a tunnel behind them. Ethan looked back over his shoulder. If this is a reunion, it's a bad time. Cale shifted his attention to him. His stare was sharp and measuring. The human. Lyra moved slightly, putting herself more fully between Ethan and Cale. Do not look at him, I told Ethan. Enough. Cale noticed it too. Something changed in his expression. Not surprise exactly. More like confirmation. So he matters. He is nothing to you, Lyra said. Cale took one slow step forward. No one is nothing if the core responds to them. The blue seams of the closed case pulsed once, as if it understood the words. Ethan felt the tension rise at once. He looked at Lyra. Who is he? Her answer came without taking her eyes off Cale. He served with my husband. Cale's mouth moved in a tired half-smile. Served beside him. Bled beside him. Saved his life twice. And ended at once, Lyra said. The chamber went silent. Ethan looked sharply at Cale. The older man did not deny it. That was the worst part. Cale let out a slow breath. You still believe that version? Lyra's voice sharpened. I believe the facts. You gave our location to men who were hunting the project. My husband died in the attack. You disappeared. I survived, Cale said. There is a difference, and he did not. For the first time, some emotion passed over Cale's face. Regret, maybe. Or maybe only irritation at being judged by history. We were all betrayed that day, he said. By command. By the mission. By the people who sent us. He looked at the case. Again. But arguing over the dead is useless now. Give me the core. No. Cale's eye shifted to Ethan. Then let the human open it. Ethan stared at him. You say that like I know how. You do not need to know, Cale said. Already chose you. Lyra stepped back. It chose nothing. It reacted. That is not the same. Cale's expression hardened. You kept it hidden for years and learned nothing. The station teams are closing in. If they seize it now, all of this becomes meaningless. From somewhere behind them came a distant, shouted order. They were running out of time. Ethan looked between them. Can someone explain what this thing really is? Cale answered first. It is proof. Lyra said, it is danger. Cale gave her a sharp glance. Both can be true. He turned back to Ethan. The memory core holds records from the final days of the border war. Tactical files, command transmissions, private archives. Enough to destroy governments if released. Ethan frowned. Then why hide it? Because those governments wanted it buried, Lyra said. Cale nodded once. Your husband understands. Faster than some officers I knew. I'm not her husband, Ethan said. The words came out too fast, too awkward. In any other moment, he might have regretted them. But Lyra did not react. Her focus stayed on Cale. Cale spread his hands slightly. Your husband believed the core could expose what really happened in the war. Lyra's jaw tightened. He told me the same, she said, before you sold him out. At that, Cale's patience cracked. I did not sell him out, he snapped. I tried to save the mission. The anger in his voice filled the chamber. He refused to hand over the core. Cale continued. He wanted to run, hide, wait for a court that would never come. Meanwhile, command was already erasing everyone connected to the project. Scientists, field teams, witnesses gone. We were dead the moment we found it. Lyra's face went pale. But her voice stayed hard. So you led them to him. I led them to a meeting point, Cale said. I expected negotiation. I expected an exchange. And you got him killed. Cale did not answer. That silence was answer enough. Ethan felt sick. The boots in the tunnel behind them sounded closer now. Searchlights flashed against the far wall for one brief second, then vanished. Cale heard them too. We finish this now. He reached inside his coat and pulled out a small weapon not aimed yet. But ready? Ethan stiffened. Lyra's voice dropped low. Do not. Then open the core, Cale said. If your husband died for truth, let us see it. The black case pulsed again. Lyra looked at Ethan not with command, not even with trust, with conflict, fear, hope, pain, everything at once. Ethan understood then that this was the moment she had been running from for years. Not the soldiers, not the station agents. This, the possibility that the truth inside the device might finally come out and destroy what little remained of the past she had built her life around. He stepped forward slowly. If I do this, no one points a weapon. At her, Cale's eye stayed fixed on him. Open it first. Ethan looked at Lyra. She said nothing for 2 seconds. Then she gave the smallest nod. He reached for the case. The instant his fingers touched the lid, it unlocked with a sharp click. Blue-white light burst through the chamber, brighter than before, forcing all 3 of them to shield their eyes. The top of the case split open. The memory core rose half an inch. Into the air, its surface unfolded like liquid metal. Then a figure appeared above it, a tall alien man in military uniform, made of light. Lyra made a sound Ethan had never heard from her before, a broken breath. That was almost a cry. It was her husband. The image looked around the chamber once, then fixed on Lyra. If you are seeing this, the recorded figure said, Then I am already dead. No one moved. Even Cale looked shaken. The figure continued, voice steady and clear. The war was never about defense. It was built, fed, prolonged. Both sides knew. Both sides profited. Lines of data exploded into the air around him. Battle maps, orders, casualty numbers, hidden transfers, command seals. Ethan stared in disbelief. Lyra's husband looked directly ahead, as if speaking across time itself, and one among us betrayed the mission. Cale's face drained of color. Then the hologram turned and pointed straight at him. The chamber fell into a terrible silence. Cale did not move. For one frozen second, he stood under the pale light of the hologram, with Lyra's dead husband pointing straight at him from beyond the grave. Blue data lines drifted through the air like cold fire. Battle records, hidden orders, dead world maps, casualty lists. Command codes, everything spun around them in layers of living proof. Ethan felt his pulse hammer in his throat. Lyra looked as if the floor had disappeared beneath her. Her husband's image remained steady above the memory core. It was not truly him. Ethan knew that. It was a recording, a final message left inside a machine older than all of them. But in that moment, the chamber felt full of his presence, full of unfinished truth. The hologram spoke again. Cale Varan was given one final chance to stand with us. He chose command protection over civilian lives. He delivered our route to officers who were already selling battle zones for political gain. Cale's jaw tightened. No. But the recording did not stop. It is because of him that our team was intercepted. It is because of him that the core had to be hidden. More lines of evidence burst into view. Audio logs, encrypted transfers, a visual fragment of soldiers moving through smoke, a command exchange with Cale's identity mark attached. To it, there was no room left for lies. Lyra made a small, croaking sound and took one step backward. Cale looked at her, but not with shame. With desperation. You don't understand, he said. They gave me no choice. Lyra's face changed, not into anger, into something deeper. The slow death of the last excuse she had never spoken aloud. You always had a choice, she said. Cale raised the weapon, then, not fully, not straight at her, but enough. The motion snapped the moment. Into violence, Ethan moved without thinking. He slammed into Cale from the side just as the older man fired. The shot hit the chamber wall, sending sparks across the tunnel mouth. The weapon slipped from Cale's hand and skidded across the floor. All three of them crashed hard into the metal grating. Pain shot through Ethan's shoulder. Cale recovered fast. Faster than Ethan expected from a man with old scars and one damaged eye. He grabbed Ethan by the jacket and threw him against the service rail. Ethan hit hard, lost his breath, and barely saw Cale turn back toward the core. Lyra was already moving. She stepped between Cale and the hologram. Do not touch it, she said. Cale stopped. The grief was gone from his face now. So was regret. What remained was hunger, fear, the look of a man who knew his last chance was slipping away. If that broadcast leaves this chamber, he said, whole governments burn. Then let them, Lyra answered. Bootsteps thundered through the tunnel behind them. Search teams talked close now. Cale heard them and made his choice. He lunged for the memory core. The moment his hand came near it, the device flashed bright white. A wave of force threw him backward across the chamber floor. His body hit the far wall with a brutal crack, and he dropped hard. Stunned and gasping, the hologram flickered once, then changed. The battle records collapsed inward, folded into streams of code, and spread out again. This